Okay, yes, how to draft a basic bodice block with dart placement and body calculations for beginners. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, do you know why the basic bodice block is important? Yes, a basic bodice block is not just a pattern decoration. Instead, it's the heart of every tailored garment, and it provides the perfect base for tops, apparel, and outerwear. And understanding this means that you can design any style you dream of, from the stylish evening gown up to other casual tops. Then, do you know that the basic bodice block has these features? It has the front and the back bodies, or the back bodice block. Then also the basic bodice block has the darts, for shaping, mostly around the bust, the waist, and also the shoulders, and this helps to ensure the fit and perfection of the cloth. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if this is your first time to discover this channel, allow me welcome you. Hi everyone, welcome back to this channel. If this is your first time here, I'm happy you are joining our sewing family today. And in our last video, we learned about the basics of pattern drafting, and if you haven't watched it yet, I absolutely recommend you checking it first, because the previous video is like the foundation for today's lesson. Now, today we are going to dive deep into learning how to draft a basic bodice block from scratch, and we will also look into the wonderful world of darts. That is the side darts, the waist darts, the bust darts, and also the shoulder darts. But my friends, do you know the importance of a dart? Yes, the darts are essential for creating a properly fitted bodice. So I will therefore show you exactly how to add them in a way that will make your patterns fit like a pro. What else do you need? Just watch this video up to the end as we go deep into the drafting. So as you will be drafting this like a pro, don't worry. If you are new to darts or pattern drafting your first pattern is a lot overwhelming, like learning how to ride a bicycle, and it takes a little by little practice. But once you get it in perfection, you will be amazed at how fun and rewarding pattern drafting is. So what are you waiting for? So guys, we are going to learn step by step, and I will be explaining every attention to detail, so that by the end of this video, you will be ready to draft your own basic bodice block with a beautiful custom fit. Okay. Now, before we draft, we need to look at accurate measurements that are needed for this project. Okay, as you can see, here are accurate or exact body measurements that are needed for this project. You will need the shoulder to shoulder measurements. I abbreviate it as XB. Then you need the round chest or chest circumference. You also need the bust measurements or bust circumference. Then you need the waist measurements. This is the natural waist for ladies, circumference. Then also you need the hips circumference. Then you need the round neck measurements or its circumference. Then also don't forget to take the nipple to nipple measurements. Some call them apex to apex, so whichever one that you call, it's okay. Then don't forget, we shall need basic bodice lengths. Yes, we need the bodice lengths. As of this, we are only ending here, but we shall have another class on how to draft the basic sleeves. So for this tutorial today, we are only drafting the basic bodies, and these are the measurements that are needed for this project. All right, now we have our measurements ready. Let us first draw down a vertical center line on one side of our pattern paper, and this will be the center front stroke the center back of our basic bodice block. And make sure that this line is nice and straight. Now, let us label this vertical line our center front stroke center back line. Now, we have finished to draft the vertical line. Next, let us also draft one horizontal line on top of your pattern paper, and this will be the shoulder stroke neckline guide. We label this line shoulder stroke neckline guide. Then at this area, we are going to label this point A, which is going to be our starting point for most of our calculated body measurements. Now, we are finished to determine one vertical line and one horizontal line. Now, the next step is to determine other horizontal working lines for our basic bodice block. First, we are going to insert the hip line height or the basic bodice length. So for this tutorial, our basic bodice length is 26.5 inches. Now, we're going to measure from starting point A downwards our basic bodice length 26.5 inches. Then we label this point B. Now we square across a straight line like this. Then we go ahead and label this our hip stroke hem stroke bodice length. Now, after we have determined our hem or bodice length, next is to determine the chest line. Now, from starting point A of the center line, we're going to measure and mark downwards your bust measurements, divide by 6 plus 2 inches to get point C, and that will be the chest line height. As for this tutorial, our bust measurement is 36 inches. Now, we're going to get this 36 inches divided by 6 plus 2 inches, giving us 8, our chest line height or arm line. We label this point C. Also, we square across a straight line like this. Then we go ahead and label this our chest line stroke arm line height. Next is to determine the bust line. Also, from starting point A of the center front line, measure and mark downwards your bust line height. For this tutorial, we will be using medium height female adult, of which her shoulders to the bust line height is 10 inches. Then label this point D. Also square across a straight line like this. Then go ahead and mark this bust line height. Now, we have finished to determine the bust line height. Next is to determine the waistline height for this bodice. From starting point A, measure downwards average highest shoulder point to the waistline, which is typically taken along the body's natural silhouette or the outline. That's the natural waist for ladies. So for this tutorial, we will be using our medium height average female adult, which is from the shoulders to the natural waist is 16 inches, and there we are going to label that point E, which is our waistline height. Then we mark this point E. We go ahead and square across a straight line. Then we label this our natural waist. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, we have finished to determine our working lines, but the last line that we're going to insert is the hem allowance line. I repeat, hem allowance line, or the folding line at the bottom of the clothes or the bottom of this basic bodice. But for this basic bodice block, we are going to add hem allowance of 1.5 inches. So from B, we are marking downwards 1.5 inches like this. Then we mark this point 1, which is our hem allowance line. Then we square down a broken line like this. Then we go ahead and label this our hem allowance line. So my people, as you can see, all the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. My people, as you can see, we have determined 1 vertical line and 6 horizontal lines for our basic bodice block. Now, once you have marked and drawn these points, go ahead and cross-check the drawn horizontal lines at these points. A, it must be the shoulder stroke neckline guide. C, it must be the chest stroke under arm line height. Then D, it must be the bust line height. Then E, it must be your waistline height. Then B, it must be our hip line stroke hemline stroke bodice length. Then 1 is our hem allowance. Now, you have a basic vertical line and 6 horizontal working lines clearly marked. This is just the framework for our bodice block, but of course, we want it in a basic block format. So, let us insert these calculated measurements to these lines accordingly so as to create the shape of our block. Don't forget, this center line, this vertical center line, when cutting it on fabric, it must be on fold. Now, we will mark the key points. First, step 1 is to create the neckline. Ladies and gentlemen, a basic neckline is usually about 3 to 4 inches down from the center front. But as for this tutorial, I'm going to share with you a simple calculations for determining the neck width and the neck depth. First, I will first determine the neck width. There are 2 steps for determining the neck. Your round neck measurements divide by 5, or you can say your chest measurement divide by 12. Any of the 2 is okay. So I always use any of the 2. I've never got a challenge with that. So for the neck width, you're going to measure from starting point A inwards. Your chest divide by 12, or round neck, which is 14 inches. I divide it by 5, giving me 2.8. If I go with the round chest divide by 12, our round chest in this tutorial is 34.125. So I get 34.125 divided by 12, still giving us 2.84375. So I will just ignore the rest, then I go with 2.8. Now from A, I measure inwards my 2.8 inches like this. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have challenges in reading the tape measure, I have a step-by-step video on my channel. I will put the link in my description box down below, and also I'm going to pin it in the top right corner of your screen so that you can click and go and watch how to read a tape measure like a pro. So here our neck width is 2.8 inches. Then I label this point F. So this is our neck width of 2.8 inches and I've labeled it point F. Then after, we're going to square down a mini straight line. Once we have finished to determine the neck width, next is to determine the neck depth. Still from starting point A, measure downwards your chest measurements, which is 34.125 divided by 12, or your round neck, which is 14 inches divided by 5, giving you the round neck depth. So I label this F1, our neck depth. Also square across a mini straight line like this. Now at this point where F intersects with F1, mark there F2. Now we have determined our neck depth and neck width. Next is to create the neckline curve. Draw a diagonal broken straight line connecting point A to point F. After, measure this distance between A up to F2, then divide it by 3 to get point F3. So this distance is 4.125 divided by 3, giving me 1.3. So that means from F2, I'm going to mark inwards. From F2, I'm going to mark inwards 1.3, which is around there. Then I label this point F3. Now, using your free hand or a French curve ruler, please connect point F at the shoulder seam to F3 and to F1 with a curved line to create a smooth front neckline shape. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now we have finished to determine our front neckline curve. Next step, that's step 2, is adding the shoulder slope.